Yo, dude skis, what's up? So, I wanted to go in here and really deep dive into the whips in MX versus ATV All Out because I feel like it might be one of the best things to this game. Now, it's not like reflex, okay? I want to get this point across in this video right here. There's nothing in this game that is better than reflex or something like that. It's not like that. Don't ever get my words twisted whenever I say this is really cool or this is pretty good and whatever. Like, I'm definitely not saying this game is better than reflex, but I feel like for the whips, they're way better than they have been in like MX versus ATV Supercross, Encore, even Alive. I mean, I like these whips a little bit better than I did the Alive ones. It's almost like three times as much movement as you had in MX versus ATV Supercross and Encore. I mean, literally, it's like three times as much movement. So just that fact alone makes it, I mean, just, I don't know, man. With a motocross game, if you don't have the whips, right, it just makes, I don't know, it takes away some fun factor, makes it to where the game just doesn't feel right. Like, whips is just a core aspect to motocross gaming, in my opinion. I mean, there is just no other feeling like just going on a free ride map and just whipping, dude. Not giving a fuck about anything. Just seeing what kind of whips you can do, man. Like this right here. There's just nothing else like it. There's no other experience that comes close to that. There's just something about that I feel like every single motocross game needs out there. So now what I noticed whenever I very first got into this game and started trying to whip, and I'm a guy that plays primarily MX Simulator, but I played Reflex a crap load for 4 or 5 years. Well, with this game, the first thing that I noticed whenever I started trying to whip like I do in some other motocross games like Reflex and stuff, I couldn't even hardly whip. I mean, the way that you whip in those games, it just doesn't work in this game. It's almost like you have to use a totally different style and technique. It's but it's not so different that you can't even figure it out. It just takes you a minute. Like when you first get into the game, you're probably going to be doing whips kind of like that right there. You're going to like barely be whipping it over. Let me see if I can do something else over here. I'm trying to stay over in this little sand dune section. You'll probably do some weird style whips. Oh, that's more of a scrub. Oh, let's see if I can find a good jump. Sometimes dunes can be like, if you don't hit dunes properly, you're going to barely leave the ground. But if you do hit them properly, you're going to hit like a fucking 300-foot jump. That's kind of how dunes are. You just kind of got to know how to hit them. Oh, and this is definitely that style of dune where you gotta really figure out what kind of jump face you're coming off of, like that right there. Now that's pretty big whips. What's cool about it though is once you start to kind of learn it, there's that feeling of like, okay, even if I turn my thumbsticks all the way, I don't have the technique figured out yet. That's kind of the feeling you get at the very beginning when you first get into the game. It's not like you can just turn it all the way and, feel like you can whip really good. You don't even really know what you're doing. So a lot of times when you first get into the game, you like whip it and then you end up crashing like that because with this game, it's almost like you're not really a cat. Like if you throw a cat up in the air, it always lands on its feet, right? Well, that's how a lot of arcade motocross games are. This game's not really like that. If you don't actually really try hard to make the dude land right, you're going to crash. Like if you just do this right here, you're going to crash. If you just lean it over too far or you get the bike too pancaked and you land flat like that, you're going to crash. Like you're going to pop off the bike. So there's a lot of importance in this game to landing straight up and down, and that's something that you'll notice there as well. But what I want to say, though, is there's so much variation to the whips. Like, I can probably sit here and do 2 or 3 completely different styles of whips just sitting here right now, and that's crazy to say in a arcade motocross game, because usually, like, you'll just have kind of one way to do it. Okay, that's kind of one style right there. That's what you would call sort of your quote-unquote normal style, right? Where you're just kind of doing a full-blown whip it all the way over like a James Stewart at his house kind of whip or something. Well, you got your turn-up styles like that right there. Probably going to crash. Oh, no. Where that's kind of if you're turning your sticks the opposite direction, like how you do your normal whips in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. And for me, like that official Monster Energy Supercross game being like that, where the way you do normal whips is like basically the opposite way that you do whips in every single other motocross game, it makes it to where it's hard to even enjoy the whips in the official Monster Energy Supercross game. But this game's cool because when you whip it the normal way, it does your normal style whips like that. But if you do it the opposite way, then you do your turn-up style. And it's not as easy as just like turning the thumbsticks or like putting the thumbsticks one way. That's not really how the whips work in this game. It requires finesse. There really is a finesse-ness to it. I know it can kind of seem really like old school sometimes, the way the bike looks. Like when you try to whip it, it can, look like a really old, outdated motocross game at times. But when you get the game in your hands, you realize how much variation and skill and finesse it takes to do whips in the game. Like, I mean, now that I'm on day 2, I'm doing completely different whips than I was doing on day 1. Like, I couldn't have whipped like that right there at all on day 1. There's no way. I just didn't have the skill or the technique on the bike yet. So that is something that you definitely notice is you've got to like roll with the whip. You can't just turn off the jump face and expect it to whip properly. And there's different things where like if you'll let off the gas and then get on the gas, that's kind of how you do more of a, like where you just turn the back end out versus like kind of whipping it all the way around. Let me see if I can kind of do it here. So like if I let off the gas, then get on the gas, you can see how it's more of a sideways whip there, okay? So that's kind of one style, the sideways whip. And the normal whip style, like I showed you guys before, was like where you kind of get it like that right there, which is a little bit different than that sideways, that side where you just bring the side out kind of whip, like I was saying. And you also have a style where you just kind of get the bike sideways, pancaked like that in the air. You can do that as well. You can kind of just get her pancaked like that. And you can also, if you turn the bike really, really sharp before you come off a jump face and you got enough speed, let me see if I didn't really have enough speed right there. Let me see if I can do it. Whoa, I haven't really practiced whipping that other way very much. Oh, it's going to be kind of hard to do it off these super big jump faces. That's not really what these kind of jump faces are meant for. They're not really meant to scrub on. They're meant for like big Mac Daddy, super, Josh Hill, those kind of dude styles of whips. Let's see here. Now I'm having trouble. See, okay, this is something to explain right here. Like, all right, so see, now I'm actually starting to whip to the left. Now I'm starting to whip the back end out on the right side, trying to do it the opposite way, and I can't even hardly fucking do it. That goes to show you the skill it actually takes. You know how in real life, like if you get really good at whipping one way, it's so bizarre how it's like that in real life, right? Like if you start whipping one way, you almost feel like that's the only way you can whip the bike. You start to learn. It's that finesse you're learning in real life. And then all of a sudden, if you try to whip it the other way, it feels completely alien to you. Like you can't even do it. That's what this feels like. Like I'm sitting here trying to whip it the other way, and you can see like I can't even do it. Like I'm having trouble. I'm having complete trouble rolling it around like I need to. That's so cool. So it's going to like be a completely different learning process trying to learn whipping the other direction. Man, that just proves it right there to you, how much skill and finesse it really takes to whip like that in this game. But I mean, you can get it all. There really is no limit to how what the bike can do in the air, right? Like you can whip it all the way backwards, even further than backwards, and bring it back around. Like if you just keep on whipping, you're going to do one of these right here. There's no limit. So that really opens up the doors for variation in whip styles. But yeah, man, I mean, there's way more variation to it than you might think from just seeing gameplay. There definitely is more than I thought, for sure. Like the bike actually rotates on different axes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you can obviously tell I can't find the word I'm looking for at all. Like it can rotate like just sideways like that, but it can also rotate like it can rotate vertically and horizontally almost completely freely, and it can kind of interchange between the two at any time. So you can do things that feel kind of like a turn up, but they turn into a whip as well. So it's kind of hard to explain that, but and then when you start getting on the brakes, it changes the way the whip does, how much you get on the gas and the air. Every little thing you do changes it. It doesn't just feel like you're doing the same thing every time you come off a jump face. So big round of applause to the makers of this game for doing that. It's awesome, dude. I love seeing it. See, like right there, like I swooped up, kind of did it like a normal whip, and then in the air, kind of turned it back like an opposite whip. So it's just every type of whip in this game like does this cool interchanging method where you can do all of them at any time. It's pretty sick, man. It really is. It's cool how they did that. I'm very impressed, but I'm not saying it's like, I mean, it's cool. Like you can't really do turn-ups like this in Reflex, I don't think. I mean, you just can't really, it doesn't really do it in Reflex, but Reflex does have more of a fluent, normal whip style to it, and the whips and I guess the scrubs in Reflex might feel a little bit more like an actual scrub than this game. Let me try to get on a different jump over here and see how much I can actually do a scrub. Haven't really tested it just a whole lot here, but yeah, if you're a fan of just doing like whips all day long, this is definitely your game for sure. That's just, you can just tell that's like a really big part to the game. So, oh yeah, I mean, it's hard to scrub. I don't know if there's any like special button for it, but it's going to be hard to really roll that bike off of a jump face. Let me get on this little motocross portion here, see if we can do it. Yeah, I mean, you definitely can do more of a scrub than a whip. You can see me kind of, it's more just sliding off of the jump face than really like coming off of the jump face there. Oh, wow, dude, this track right here feels completely different than the actual Nationals version when you don't have the banners and everything around it. That's interesting. Okay, I know I got a bit of a jump face right here. It's still going to be hard to scrub off something like that. But, yeah, I mean, you can just see, like, the different variations when you really start trying to whip the back end up more than just out. That's one thing you'll really notice differently. Let's see. I'm just trying to find me, like, a good scrub face. Good Lord, man. I'm having trouble. Let's go around like this. Okay. It's just kind of hard to get the speed I need on some of these jumps. Let me see if I can find a different one here. Okay, here's a Mac Daddy. Oh, dude, this might be the biggest jump I've ever hit. Oh, my gosh. Woo, baby. I mean, you could just see what the potential is if you never let off the steering on a whip. You can do a fucking, 1,069 TP 8 million and land it. I'm sure you could land it. Oh, there's more of a scrub right there. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. See if we can do it over here on this. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely do it, but I don't know how fluent it is compared to Reflex. But it's just all in how you look at it. This game definitely has more of a kind of wanky, janky kind of, it's not as, I don't know, it's not as like realistic, fluent as like a Reflex whip system is, but it's still cool. I mean, it's something different. Like, I actually do enjoy the whip system in this game. It's fun to just come off a jump face and think in your head, like, okay, either I'm going to do a whip like this, or I'm going to do a whip like that, or I'm going to do a whip like that, or I'm going to scrub it like this. It doesn't just feel like, oh, I'm doing another whip, the same whip I've done 10 million times. Right? Like, it just really gives you that fun feeling of like you're doing something different every time you come off that jump face. Got just a little bit of variation every single time, and man, that's like the most important part to whips in a game. It would have been cool to have seen a whip system kind of like this implemented in Reflex, right? That's got like that true turn-up whip style to it and stuff like that. That would have been sick to see it integrated into Reflex in a way to where it like still had all the good Reflex physics, but you had this kind of whip system in there. That would have been so cool. But I mean, just look at that. Like, you can tell I definitely don't have the turn-up whip style, like, completely learned yet or anything, but it's just going to take some time to get it. Ooh, yeah. Ooh. But yeah, I mean, overall, whips are pretty fun in this game, without a doubt, man. It's when you first get in the game, you're gonna find yourself endoing, crashing, not even being able to get the bike over at all. You're gonna find yourself kind of doing some shit like this right here, where then you land like that. You can't really get your wheels underneath you, but just keep playing the game, man. Learn a little bit more of that finesse. Just start whipping it one way, and you'll start to kind of learn how you roll that thumbstick around, and that'll really let you get her whipped all the way over. Oh, dude, a little too early on the scrub there, so that's cool. It's cool to see that you can still crash trying to turn way too early on a jump face. It just like leans the bike all the way over and you hit your head, so that's cool. But yeah, man, fairly impressed with the whips. Like I'm saying, could be probably the best part to this game when you look at it as a whole. As far as like just overall game type of sense. But either way, shout out to SquidSquadSTL.com. He's actually a real life pro supercross rider. He's got a clothing website. He also sells stickers and stuff like that on there. So definitely go check him out. But other than that, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.